So that's what I say to those who want to say race isn't always a thing. But let me get to Miss Sha'Carri Richardson. Sha'Carri. Tomato, man. So she ran a race this past weekend, which nobody would normally care about had she participated in the Olympics, if we're being honest. We wouldn't have given a damn about this race. But we felt that she was she was disqualified from the Olympics on some BS, which, I mean, you could say the rule is BS, but nonetheless, she broke the rule. She was disqualified from the Olympics, and she ran in some Nike race, and she got like ninth. And she said the only way to go from here is up. Yeah, because you're high. I'm joking, but seriously, hopefully her next place is up. Hopefully, she takes these past two instances, and it gets her in the lab to work harder. Now, full disclosure, I understand that she lost her mother, and I don't know how that's affected her training. I don't know how that's affected her mental, her headspace. And maybe that could have a lot to do with it. But also it's track. Usain Bolt didn't win every race. Fastest man alive, but he didn't win every race. Sometimes you just lose. Sometimes you have a bad day at the track. Sometimes your routine gets messed up. One day you maybe not be as loose as you like to be. You don't get the best start. You don't get the best kick. You know what I mean? There's so many things that can happen. Or maybe the people that you're racing are great. They're fast, but also they're having some of their best days. That's the thing. But here's what I don't like. I don't like her being painted as a victim, right? I don't like her being painted as less than a competitor, right? I don't like this whole, it doesn't matter what happens in the race. She's the winner. And you know what? I don't like it. And let me see if I can find the post. Because Tory Lanez had a post that made me cringe, made me sick to my stomach, and it lets me know that he has not competed in sports at any level at all, honestly. So the post reads, Sha'Carri ran a great race, not because she won or lost, but through all the adversity, she got up and ran again and gave it her all. Guess what? If your profession is running track, the expectation is that you run. The expectation is that you just don't quit on your track dreams. You run the race, right? If that's what you do for a profession. So I would expect nothing less from her. I would expect for her, oh, the Olympics didn't work out for me. Okay, I'm going to keep running in the races that present themselves. I'm not like the biggest track guy. I don't keep up with that sport. It's not like a sport that we care about outside of the Olympics. I'd expect her to do that. And I'll expect her to succeed. And if she doesn't, I'm not going to say I'm going to come on here and criticize her, because I wouldn't have anything to say about this if Tory Lanez didn't have this post, or if the internet didn't go crazy talking about them. She's a winner because she got back out there. No, bro. The thing about track, it's who can get from point A to point B the fastest. We watch it and we time it. So guess what? There's no moral victories here. There's no, LeBron is the best player in the league despite getting beat by one of the best teams ever. No, bro. The time you run defines what your rankings in this thing. There's no subjectivity around here. It's straight objective. And your objective for her is to run 100 yards, 100 meters faster than everybody else. And if you don't do it, you're not a winner. She went through a lot within the last month. Be on the app preaching all this uplift our queens, then tear them down. Well, so let's talk about this. Me having a comment on your performance has nothing to do with me uplifting or tearing you down. So for one, I don't subscribe to this uplift our queens. I uplift the people that I feel like uplifting when I feel like uplifting them. I'm not going to uplift you just because you are black or just because you are a woman, just because you are my friend, just because you are my foe, just because you exist in this life. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to uplift the things that I support and I subscribe to. Speaking of which, subscribe to this podcast on Patreon at patreon.com/BigBabyTheGoat. I'm not going to blindly follow anybody. That's crazy. I was given critical thinking skills. I was given a brain, so I'm going to use my brain and support and uplift the things that I want to support and uplift. But just because I am critical of something does not mean that I do not support you. I criticize my best friends all the time. I still love them. I criticize my parents. That means that I still love them. I criticize people that I work with. I still have a professional level of respect for them. But what's happening in this world is if we criticize you, if we have something negative to say about you, we're hating on you or we're tearing you down. No, we're not. We're trying to help you get to where you need to be. And unfortunately for this young lady, she's had so much hit her at once. Again, her mother passing, the Olympic incident, the fame, the stardom, and then the increased scrutiny. And there's no playbook for how to deal with this. There's no playbook of how to go from beloved track girl to famous beloved track girl to this pothead is a disgrace to our country. Not my words, but you get the point that I'm making, right? There's no playbook on how to deal with it. And no matter what that playbook says, you won't be ready to execute it until you get out on the field of play. And unfortunately for Miss Richardson, she's living hers in front of our faces. But when it comes to the track, she is an athlete. She's not a victim, and she should be treated as such. We should not call her a winner. We should not applaud her for just getting out and running on the track, because if we did that in her LSU days, we wouldn't know her. We applaud her for being a winner. We applaud her for being great. We applaud her for being the best of the best. We applauded her because we thought that she was going to give us a chance to win the 100 meters in the Olympics, and that's what we wanted. We wouldn't be on this woman's back if we thought she was going to get the bronze. We wouldn't be on this woman's back if we thought she would get 5th place. We love and care about her, and we criticize her because we expect greatness, because that's what she's given us. But now, unfortunately, in her journey, she's had some extreme missteps. And, you know, there's a bunch of sick people out here who look for things to cause chaos in other people's lives. But you got to understand some of the stuff that you can and can't do when you're in the public eye. So apparently somebody tweeted, not y'all Jamaicans still talking ish when y'all got to walk barefoot to your coconut stand every day for a living. And she liked it. Them barefoot coconut stand walking Jamaicans whooped your ass in a race, man. Maybe you should start walking barefoot better so maybe you can run more faster. And then I see a picture of one of these quote unquote barefoot Jamaicans she got, who was an Olympic medalist flying private. So I guess she flying private to her coconut stand, huh? You understand where I'm coming from? So look here, America, you got to stop making people out to be victims, because they're not. You're only a victim of your decisions. Especially when it comes to this track stuff, when it comes to her smoking weed, she's the victim of those decisions. And now you're making it worse for yourself because some are making you out to be an empathetic figure, which I don't think you are. And in the same time, when you're being made out to be an empathetic figure, you're doing things to turn people against you who may already be against you. So they're just going to pile on. And for those who support you and think this like, oh my gosh, she's so sad. Then you say some stuff like this, and you go, oh wow, she's an a-hole. And then she had a post pretty much saying that, like, hey, if you're supporting me on TV, that's fake support. Good. Thank you. I'm glad you look at yourself as an athlete and not a victim. Because I'm not going to come out here and fake support you and say, oh, yeah, get better next time. Nah, bro, get back in the lab. Just not good enough. But it's okay. You can always get better. There's room for that. So what we got to stop doing is we got to stop victimizing people just because they go through adversity. Adversity is part of life. You know, the process is what makes the diamond. The process is what makes the pearl. The process is what makes life worth living. If everything is given to you, then what the hell is it worth? But when you work hard for things, when you go through adversity and then you overcome, that's when you truly value your accomplishments. And the closer that we get to living life like it's MySpace and not Instagram, will be so much better. Understanding that, hey, there are top people in my life. Everybody's not the same. Hey, I'm going to post these ugly pictures because I don't even know that I'm not supposed to post this. Hey, there's no filter, so whatever the camera took, I'm posting. Hey, I don't know what the internet's going to remember and what it's going to forget. So I'm going to say whatever I want to say, no matter how controversial it's going to be, no matter how cancelable this thing can be. I'm going to say it because that's what I truly feel in this moment. And guess what? We'll get along a lot better when we stop hiding our true feelings. We may butt heads, but then we can have a conversation that brings us to a place of growth. We'll get past this expectation of perfection because it's false. Perfection is not a thing. There's only one person who's perfect, and that is God. And ain't none of y'all God. So none of y'all perfect. Ain't none of us God. Ain't none of us perfect. So what we have to do is we have to accept our flaws and accept that we're going to mess up. But understand that once you put yourself in that public light, like I said last episode, if you talk big shit, you catch big shit. I'm not saying it's fair, but you got to understand life's not fair. This search for fair, it's false. Like when I look at Lil Nas X today coming out talking about y'all ain't mad at Tony Hawk for putting blood on his skateboards, but y'all was mad at me. Oh, y'all know the real reason why. Bro, stop trying to be a victim. Stop trying to say people don't rock with you because you gay. It's not because you're gay. It's not, bro. It's just because of how you act. Like you always begging for attention. Don't nobody like an attention whore. People don't like that. If you got to insert yourself in everything, or if everything you do is like what they call extra, that's annoying. That's draining. Like sometimes people want to be surrounded by people who just relax and chill and live in life, doing the things that they do because it makes sense for them. But guess what? Sometimes you can be doing what's comfortable for you and it's uncomfortable for somebody else. And you have to accept that. You have to accept that everybody is not going to be accepting of you or your lifestyle, no matter what the lifestyle is. I understand that there are people who don't like me, who don't even know me. They just seen me in a place or two. They saw how I act. They saw how I carry myself. And they say, that's not a guy that I want to be around. That's not a guy that I want to be associated with. And no matter how wrong I can think they are because they don't know me, they're well within their rights to do that because I do it to some people. I will see behaviors from a distance and I say, I don't want that in my face. Keep that as far away from me as possible without peeling back the layers to get to who the person truly is when they're not in that space. So the one thing about life is when I talked about, hey, the one thing about free speech is that I have it too. The one thing about freedom of expression is that I have it too. is that you can reject my mainstream way of living, and I can reject your alternative way of living. Everything is not acceptable by everybody. And the sooner that we accept that we're not always going to agree, everybody's not going to be a gray blob, we'll be okay. Remember the episode of The Fairly Odd Parents where Timmy Turner was like, I wish everybody looked alike. And then everybody's a gray blob. And there's no individuality. And you can't tell your friend from your mom, from your cousin, to your sister, to your brother, because everybody looks and sounds the same. Everybody acts the same. No, bruh. That's not it. Everyone's not going to accept you, and you got to accept, you have to accept that everyone's not going to accept you. You should understand and honestly relish that people won't accept you. And instead of focusing on the people who don't accept you and focusing on the people who criticize you, focus on the ones that love you. Focus on the ones that big you up, the ones that take good care of you, the ones that support you. Those are the ones that should matter. You shouldn't be worried about anything else. If like, hey, if you ain't rocking with me, then all right, bro, you ain't got to rock with me. I rock with me. My crew rock with me, and that's all that matters. But just like you want me to accept your differences or accept you because you're different, accept me because I'm different. It's a two-way street. And honestly, man, I got a few topics left on here, but I'm going to just cut this one at 43 minutes. I kind of like what we had to say here because the rest of these topics, they're not dated. I can always go back to these topics and talk to them for y'all. So I hope y'all enjoyed this pod. It's going to be both on the normal feed and on the Patreon feed, man. Make sure y'all check me out on Patreon, patreon.com/BigBabyTheGoat. Check out all my material on my website at BigBabyTheGoat.com. YouTube, Instagram, Free Big Baby the Goat. Subscribe on iTunes, subscribe on Spotify, right? Rate, review, comment, share, tell the whole world. You know what I mean? Big Baby ad.